Good morning, I am Pete, also known as Risk for Rewards, or over on Twitter known as @Risk for Rewards. Currently got just coming up to 21,000 followers over there on Twitter and about 1,700 here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed already, if you click the link up below, it just means you get the video straight away. And as seen yesterday, video went live about half 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And most people wouldn't have seen it until I tweeted the link after the racing at the end of the day on Twitter. And there's a lot of price movements already. Like there's horses today running that they were 16 and 20 to 1 now. One of them's a 6 to 1 favourite. So, I mean, it doesn't matter when obviously they get beat. So you get a nice value loser. But at the same time, if you're an exchange player, you can lay that off and you're laughing. So it's just if you want the early prices, comes up on your screen. It's just a lot easier to subscribe, to be honest. Any likes, much appreciated. And if you want Twitter content, that's over there as well. The flat, I tend to do a bit more video because it just happens so fast. Obviously, Royal Ascot week. I'd love to come on here and say what a great week it's been, but we all know it's not really been that great a week. It's been brilliant to watch. Don't get me wrong. I like obviously the factor of the love of Frankie Dettori and stuff, but it's been a tough week for the punters to say the least. I mean, I've not seen anything like it. It's just absolute pure madness. I mean, I'll do a quick recap of yesterday. Norfolk Stakes. I think every man and his dog, especially the British, were over on elite status. Went all the way out to about 9 to 4, backed into 7 to 4. Ran a brilliant race, just wasn't quick enough out the gates. It just wasn't like you needed that 5 furlong American speed almost to get you in the race and then to stay on. Just never closed that gap any quicker. And the winner, Valiant Force, just bolted out the gate. 150 to 1 winner, 486.0 I think it was on Betfair Exchange. Biggest winner they've ever had at Royal Ascot. And you look in second place and it was Malk at 66 to 1. So, I mean, I think the straight forecast paid something like 3,500 to 1. I mean, there will be someone who picked these sort of horses, and obviously yesterday obviously I complained about not being able to see the form. I could see the Valiant Forces form. I wouldn't have picked it, but I saw it because I was looking at Noche Magica and they had formed together. Valiant Force ran on the far side on his own, easily forgiven, dropped back to 5 furlong, faster ground. There were many reasons you could have seen, but at the same time, it had to reverse form with his Majesty, Noche Magica, and come on for obviously the runs, prove that 5 furlongs what the horse wanted. So you could have made the case, but obviously 150 to 1, fair play if you've got it. We then went on to the Desert Hero. This is a race I skipped. As much as it was a big price, obviously I'm going to sound like an idiot saying this now, you can see the angle again for this one in the fact that he was sent off 4 to 1 for the London Gold Cup when ended up finishing behind Bertinelli. Bertinelli went up in the weights, proved that he was well handicapped here and obviously turned the form around. Brilliant ride by Tom Marquand, getting one up for the King. Ribblesdale, Alasifa. This just came too soon, to put it quite simply. It's rubbish for all of us punters because we backed her at 10 to 11 and stuff. It was just too soon in her career. It's very unlike John Gosden to get it wrong, but on this case, he got it wrong in my opinion. The horse showed plenty of promise. Obviously, you're never going to go well 4 or 5 wide. And you can say, oh yeah, but it's in the wrong draw. But Warm Heart and Ryan Moore came across from the wide draw and had no issue. He gave that the perfect ride. But Alasifa showed plenty in the race to say that she is capable going forwards. Maybe at 10 furlongs, maybe at 12 furlongs. I don't think it was a trip beater. I just think everything happened too fast. She was hanging. It was like having a kid and telling them that you were absolutely bossing the under 7s league, you're going to play in the under 9s. It was just, from the wide draw, no cover, just everything happened. I think he was so concerned about not getting that clear passage, which everyone would have wanted him to get, that he ended up 4 wide and she was just away with the fairies. I wouldn't write her off. So a lot of people obviously say, oh, favourites, they always get it. I wouldn't write her off at all. Onto the Gold Cup, Courage Mon Ami, 15-2 favourite. 52 winner, absolutely awful price. I still wouldn't pick that now. Fair enough, it's one of those where you just hold your hands up and say no. It had 3 runs in its life. Last time out it had beaten Gary Moore handicapper in Agagio, who was a hurdle horse. The form just wasn't there. To win a Gold Cup on your 4th start is just incredible. I mean, if this horse can maintain this sort of level, they may have just landed straight on another Stradivarius type to take on Kyprios with. You could have gone through almost the list. There's loads I wouldn't have backed, like your beers and stuff like that, but this horse would have been way down the list. Second and third sums up the week. Obviously, Coltrane back to anti-post 6 to 1, finishes the 11 to 4 second. He's just rock solid, but he's just bumped into one. and Subjectivist ran a brilliant race. Obviously, he's not the force of old. Moving on to the Britannia, Docklands, well gambled, well backed, absolutely smashing the betting, and they really did it. 14-1 the day before, was 6-1 for most of the day. I'm sure I saw something like a 20 grand each way bet go up on all the, they normally put them up for people to get excited and then nothing happens, but this one did. Brilliant run under Hayley Turner, and she got the job done well. Yeah, very, very impressive. Horses going places. Harry Eustace, improving. That one was one, again, the punters could have got. I'd imagine some people had a much better day yesterday, but it's just the favourites. The favourites really, really destroyed punters' hopes. Urban Sprawl was the horse I backed at Epsom. Ran no race there, having won at the time before. Bounced back here, 50-1 third. Beautiful run. Waipiro obviously bounced back from Derby. I thought the eye catchers were Exoplanet and Bold Act, who again from the London Gold Cup. So that London Gold Cup is massive form lines at Newbury. Obviously Bertinelli won it. In behind was Exoplanet and Bold Act. And obviously Bertinelli finished third behind Desert Hero, who was sent off favourite for that race that day, but just needed the run. And then obviously Exoplanet and Bold Act. Exoplanet was so hard done by in that race. I mean, if you'd had a good bet on Exoplanet, you'd be very disappointed if it was a win-only bet. Because I'm not saying it would have beaten Waipiro, but I think it's very hard to say that they wouldn't have gone very close. And to be honest, may well have beaten Waipiro. I think basically Callum Rodriguez on Oviedo basically gifted the race to Tom Marquand. He dragged straight across the side of the track by pushing too hard on his horse. The horse hung left and wiped everything out on the left-hand side. Exoplanet ended up in the car park, and it just left a perfect, absolutely pocketed Tom Marquand on Waipiro to just go straight down the middle and say thank you very much. Obviously Exoplanet got going again, but you just couldn't make that gap back up and was beaten 2 lengths. I find it very hard to see that if Oviedo hadn't stayed in that straight line, Marquand would have found it harder to get out. Exoplanet would have got a better line, and I think, I'm not saying it would have definitely happened, but it would have been very close. The last race, Buckingham Palace Stakes. Honestly, I put some joke bets up on Twitter after the first, said 50-1, 66-1, and I still picked the wrong 50-1 shot. This horse here, Witch Hunter, was the first one I came to. And I was like, oh no, not that 50-1 shot, I'll pick the other 50-1 shot. And lo and behold, obviously it actually won, but yeah, it's just madness sometimes. And as I said yesterday, I said that if I come on here and I haven't had a winner, then you'll know that things really aren't going well and flipping out. I only covered 3 races yesterday. Yeah, if you told me I wouldn't have got a winner out of any of those 3, I'd have been shocked. But here we are. We go again today, and obviously I'm not going to be here tomorrow doing it, because obviously this is Saturday's preview, but we could be looking at him thinking, oh, look, Tahira obviously has beaten Meditate 3 times, still found a way to lose. Oh look, Little Big Bear, £10 clear, still found a way to lose. You just don't know. That's the thing. That's the beauty of horse racing, and this is top level competitive horse racing. Anyway, I go on. So let's go on to Saturday, because that's what everyone's here for. Saturday. Even if the results don't go well, at least it's the weekend. Royal Ascot Saturday. Does it get any better than this? No, it does not. Right, so we're going to go in the Chesham first. I'm going to go through, obviously these are my early thoughts. Some I've backed, and I'll tell you the ones I've backed. Some I'm waiting for the market to settle. Much like the Norfolk, the Albany today, I just want to see the way the market moves and get your best odds guaranteed. So straight up first is the Chesham. I'm probably not saying that right. It's a brilliant race for fillies in the past. Aidan O'Brien likes to dominate this race, as does Charlie Appleby. Both of them have had plenty of winners in the past. I remember being there for September and I just couldn't have her beat. I think it went 5-2 until about 11-8, and luckily she won, but I was so hungover from the day before, just had it in my head. I woke up that she wouldn't be beaten. Luckily she wasn't. But you look here and they don't quite have that sort of level of form. Pearls and Rubies is the interesting one. Went into everyone's notebooks last time out. Very impressive when winning. Ryan Moore's picked her. The only thing was she was a bit slow away. Is that going to matter in a 7 furlong race? Probably not. Just short enough price, 94 5-2. She's on the short list. I'll just give you my short list, and it's not going to take long, because I do think the first front 4 I really like. So next up is La Guarida. So La Guarida, I think, could well end up underestimated, and that could be a price mover. So if you're looking at the moment around 6-1, if this drifts out to about 7-8-1, because it's not an Aidan O'Brien horse, then I think this could definitely be one of my 2 bets. The reason is because I go through the form in behind La Guarida when really stepped up on second start when winning, and since then, like, absolutely bolted up like on the bridle. Richard Hannum, we know how good he is with 2-year-olds. but she beat second 2.5 lengths, 3.5 lengths to third, 5.5 lengths to fourth, very, very easily. And the second, third, and fourth have all won since. And she wasn't even favourite that day. So, and she came on from that was on her first run. She finished 2 lengths behind Jabara. So if Jabara goes well in the Albany today, I'll be getting on La Guarida straight away because that's an instant form boost. But I'd be surprised if La Guarida isn't one of my selections. I'm just waiting to see how the market moves. And Content, I really liked her debut. I don't know how she didn't beat Buttons. I don't know how Buttons even won that race. Buttons just looked so inexperienced, so all at sea. I mean, how Colin Keane didn't get Serious Notions up to beat Buttons is beyond me. But how Wayne Lauder didn't get Content up coming down the outside to beat both is beyond me. But the problem is with Aidan O'Brien is a lot of times it's all about the experience. So they're not in a rush to push them too hard. And also, it's almost like a bonus if you finish second because obviously you're not getting any sort of penalty going forwards. So Content's on the short list. And then Golden Mind. I really liked Golden Mind last time out when beating Fusterlandia. Had no right to win that race. Fusterlandia's ran a couple of big races now, but finished second, unfortunately. But the form is Frank's, strong form. But was all at sea for the first half of that race. Wasn't travelling, was off the bridle, was running in snatches, just looked like a horse having its second start. But once got going, like it just absolutely flew and got going and going and going. And as I said, had no right whatsoever to win that race past Fusterlandia. Obviously related to is it Perfect Power? Yeah, Perfect Power. Half brother to Perfect Power. But nothing like that horse. That horse was a strong travelling beast of a horse in that sort of direction. This horse, maybe he'll learn and he'll settle. I mean, if this horse comes into, if in the first, this horse will win or lose its race in the first 50% of the race. If it settles a lot better and travels a lot better, then we know it's already got the kick. But at the same time, has got to carry £5 extra than some of these because it's not a filly or mare. Well, a filly on this occasion because they're all 2-year-olds. So for me, the shortlist is unfortunately the front end of the market. I mean, I could go through some of the others, but I didn't really like them. So the front of the market is Pearls and Rubies, La Guarida and Content. So I may look at an angle where I can play the second and third favourites against the favourite, or I may do the same but without the favourite. Or Pearls and Rubies might be my bet. It just depends on price. So I'm going to let that market settle because at the moment it's 5-2 and then 6-1 the pair. But I do like the second and third favourites. Onto the Jersey Stakes. I'm still I'm in an armour in this. A horse that I do like at a bigger price is Kwa Shamar of Jessica Harrington's. It's a horse that they clearly liked. Came here, won at Dundalk, nothing impressive, but still won by 2.25 lengths from Unless. But the run I did like was when sixth in the Irish 2000 Guineas. That was behind none other than Paddington, but was on the pace. So if we're going with the pace bias, then maybe obviously that was flattering to this horse, but also was pocketed in. So it never got like a clear run where you get pushed along and say, oh yeah, let's go for it. But is drawn wide here on 12. And I just think is overpriced. 20-1, 4.25 lengths behind Paddington. I mean, that's not bad form. But obviously we know Paddington's improving like £5 to £10 on each start. But yeah, I think that horse is if currently a 20-1 shot, that will be one of my each way plays. Only a small bet, and I'll probably have another bet in the race, but there's plenty I don't overly like. So I went through from the back upwards, and that's how I ended up Cor Shamar was the first one I liked from the bigger prices upwards. I'm not a massive fan of Holloway Boy. Olivia Moraldo was a career best last time, and I thought that was impressive when beating Hal Green, but that form stacks out as like one quite a standout piece of form, and last year was well beaten by Dramatised. So Mysterious Night was interesting. Was sent off favourite to win the Craven Stakes when Indestructible won. Travelled very well for the first like 3/4 of the race, but just completely found nothing and just was almost like pulled up. That form's a bit suspect, like behind the likes of Marban and stuff who runs in the Commonwealth Cup. So if it runs well today, then obviously that's a form boost. But obviously then went Globetrotting to Deauville, then to Woodbine, and has done much best form when away from home. So my concern there is like what's going on with that horse. Has been gelded and does come here with a tongue tie. So and Charlie Appleby's won the last 2 renewals of this. So Mysterious Night does fit on the page that I like, but just would want maybe a bigger price. Currently 8s, maybe 10s, 12s. That would be a nice price. Enjafar, not going to be for me. Not on third start. Looked inexperienced at Chelmsford. Could win here, but I just thought for the prices too inexperienced. And the Antarctic has never been a horse I've really warmed to. Obviously 6 furlongs, stepping up to 7 furlongs. Has got all the form at 6 furlongs to be featuring here with big numbers, but has to give £3 to plenty of these. Yeah, not one I've overly been keen on. And and Covey from the wide draw, very impressive last time out. But how many horses do you see go very impressive, and can they back it up? Drop back and trip 7 furlongs. John Gosden, Frankie Dettori could well back it up. I just think it's a race where I want to take a flyer at a couple, and Kwashamar at 20-1 will be one of those. And then I'm not sure who the other one would be, but Mysterious Night possibly, with the trainer winning the last 2 run-ins, tongue tie fitted and been gelded. But I do want to see the yard their runners run today, see how they get on. I've seen a few people mentioning the form this week of the Appleby yard. Their horses are running to form, and obviously at the end of the day, you're comparing it to Royal Ascot form, so you're not expecting like the likes of Adyar Modern Games. Yeah, okay, they were beat 4 lengths or whatever. Regardless of price, these are competitive top level races, so there's no knock in those. But you just from Charlie Appleby, you expect them to be 110%. Like Bold Act ran a screamer yesterday, so we'll see. We'll see how obviously they've got a couple of plays in the Commonwealth Cup like Noble Style today. We'll see how they get on. But yeah, I think that one's an interesting one. But like I said, if I'm getting 9 or 10-1 for giving its flop last time, gelded, tongue tie, William Buick, I'd rather take a bit of a chance on something like that. On to the big one of the day, and that's the Queen Elizabeth II, the Jubilee Stakes. So, I mean, I could go through all of these, but I'm not going to. The astrologist for me has been poor since coming across. Cannonball ran no race earlier in the week. Maybe that was just going to be a prep and a warm up for this, but I find it hard to believe an Australian runner comes across for a prep as such as that. And then obviously there's a lot of horses here that I've never even heard of, like Big Invasion has got all the numbers over in America, but we've not seen it here yet, so they are hard to weigh up. But I'm going to stick to the homebred horses. I say I'm going to stick to homebred, not all homebred horses. The horses that I like in the race I do like Artorias. Artorias has got a nice draw in 8. I think they're going to come up the middle, because at the moment the ground was running fast yesterday. Some still went up stand side, some still went up far side. But the best ground was up the centre, and by the end of the day they were like Jamie Spencer flew on the Witch Hunter at 50-1 yesterday in the last race of the day. So I think they're going to soon say, oh, hang on a minute, the centre is where we want to be, and that's perfect for Artorias. The problem is with Artorias is he needs to get going earlier, and the other problem is James McDonald, I think, is one of the best jockeys in the world, but this week he's just not been at the races, in my opinion. He's just been, it's almost like they've been trained over in Australia to, you're getting a bit, because basically if they do any sort of interference, they're getting booted and they get huge bans over there. It's a very different world to obviously what we're in here. Whereas these jockeys, especially in Ireland, they ride with their elbows up and it says, you want this space, come get it. And with a horse such as Artorias, he needs the breaks, he needs the gaps, he needs to get going, and he's one of those, exactly the same as Rohan last year in the Wokingham. You need to just take a run at your line, whichever way you're going, and just hope that gap opens, because Artorias won't be one of the strongest travellers in the early stages, but it comes here off some career best runs, and also comes here off much better form than last year. So like was 4th behind Animo last time out, but that was over 7 furlongs. Obviously over in Australia they run them at 5, 6, 7. They're all over the shop. I think this is a 6 furlong horse, and it just brings me back to last year's run behind Naval Crown. I thought that was a massive run, and obviously everyone's looking across to Highland Princess, but Highland Princess finished 6th that day, so he did finish staying on past her. Highland Princess has improved without recognition, and if she was to win here, it'd be one of those I'll just clap my hands to and say great result. But I can't back a horse. It's different when you've got a horse like, what was his name, the Godolphin horse. It was only 3 years ago when he did back to back. Blue Point. It's different when you've got a Blue Point, like when they win it, and they win it fairly easily and fairly well. Highfield Princess had a proper race with Bradsell, obviously giving Bradsell plenty of weight, and Holly Doyle rode an absolute coy perfect ride by sneaking out, like not interfering with the horse enough, but giving it a bit of a scare enough that the horse couldn't get going. And it was just a very, very smart racing manoeuvre without losing the race. And I just think that was a proper race. And if you can run your race here again, so runs race exactly the same again 5 days later, then fair play. And if you win, you just take it on the chin. It's one of those. Too short for me. Wellington was priced up at 16-1. The Nick Luck podcast started coming through saying definitely on the plane. Still remains 16-1. And at the time I thought about it, but I just think this isn't the Wellington. Like obviously, if this Wellington turns up in like not career best form, but in top level form, then it could well, I say could take the beating, could well win this very, very easily. Like, got lots of form with Lucky Sway Nazy this year, but you look at the numbers that are coming through, and you've got 1-2-3s, 1-2-5s, like they're all high numbers. But the difference is, like last year, in the past, the horse has been winning many. Maybe it's just the fact that Lucky Sway Nazy is that good that he just can't. Like, he's become behind that horse in the last 4 events, but it's not just that horse; he's coming behind in a few others, and it's a here or there, like as in 120 performance, then a 116, 123, then a 114. Which one are we getting here? I mean, in order to win this race in the past, you're going to need a 120 performance. So we know he's got that in the tank. There's no doubt about that. But this is very different to running around Chartin. Chartin, obviously, Chartin isn't a straight track. This is a straight track. And I just think this is going to be a bit of a culture shock. Ryan Moore in the saddle. Ryan Moore would have had plenty of offers for who he wants to ride in this race. So the fact that they booked him up early, does he have a chance? A very strong chance. But is there plenty of chance for him to bomb out or to not handle track? There's loads of imponderables. And again, at current price, him and Highland Princess both at 11-2. I just think that's short when she's got to back up after 5 days, and he's got to prove, one, that he's up to the level when he's on a going day or in his past form, to say like last year when he had loads of ones next to his name. And 2, obviously he's got to handle the track, the situation, the travel and all that sort of thing. So I can't put you off those, but there's 2 that I like in the race, and I really like. In fact, there's 3 I like in the race, but there's 2 that I'm going to back in the race. I'll have a work out whether I want. The third one that's just missed the list was Kinross. The reason is because I think I really like Kinross, but I think it's a 7 furlong horse. I think it was very impressive over 6 furlongs here on Champions Day, but I think that was because the ground was so soft. So that's why that was the last one off the short list. The 2 that I have backed are Artorias. I backed that 11-2 anti-post and on the Discord, but currently around 4-1, and that's a win bet for me. I just think the horse, okay, it makes sense to go each way because obviously it always finds hard coming through the gaps, but I've gone for a win bet because it was short enough. But the one I really, really like is our boy from last year's Wokingham winner, and my 25-1 shot, Rohan. There's just so little that I don't like about this horse, bar the fact that he's 0 for 7 in Group 1s. Take away the fact that he's 0 for 7 in Group 1s, like his Ascot form, first of 21, 18th of 20, 1st of 26, 1st of 13, 4th of 18. And 4th of 18 was obviously in the Champions Sprint in the winter up against obviously Kim Ross, but that was on soft ground. And also he was drawn on the wrong side. He won his battle against, so obviously when the course split sometimes he won his battle. I just think he's a knock in each way bet. He's currently 12-1, 5 places, bet 365. I'll be disappointed if he's not in the places. And as at my bigger prices, he'd be my each way nap of the day. I just think, yeah, he's just got great chances. And I know people will say, yeah, but he's done a lot of that in handicaps, and yeah, he has. But at the same time, he has mixed it with the best. So like obviously, as I say, 3 lengths off Kim Ross there. He's not a fade to running in Group 1s. He just hasn't got his Group 1 win as yet. But he comes here on the exact same prep as last year. And last year he achieved a career best 119 RPR. The only negative I have is the fact that Ryan Moore isn't on again, because that's what I was looking for. I've been waiting all week to see if Ryan Moore was definitely on Wellington, and he is, unfortunately. So obviously that's a big point towards that way. But Adam Kirby's won on this horse before. The horse has Group 1 placed form. Ascot form is brilliant. And I just find it hard to knock, mainly because of the fact there's so many other horses that have got question marks. Like Highfield Princess could 100% win this. The same goes for Wellington. But at the same time, if someone said to you, they've both just bombed out, would you be surprised? No. So whereas Rohan, I would be disappointed if he's not at least running his race. And if he's running his race and he's coming off a very similar prep, so a 119 RPR would put up, again, Highfield Princess ran to a 119 on Tuesday. So that puts him, Artorias last year in this race ran to a 117. So that'll put him above Artorias. I'm just saying, like, obviously he's not the sexy horse. He's not like the, look at me sort of horse. I just think if there's a bit of a turn up, he could be the one. And at 12-1, I think that's more than fair. He's drawn 10 and both my horses are drawn 8 and 10. And that's the reason I've picked them again, is because I think they're going to end up coming up the middle. And if they don't, if you're drawn 8 and 10, you can go either way. So I just think they're both good draws. Problem is with obviously both those horses is they're likely to be outpaced in the early stages and coming through, and they will need the gaps. But this is not a big field. This has got, about 16 runners it's got at the moment. It's going to be fast ground, 16 runners. They will fan out, because when they start getting pushed, they will fan out. it should not take much to get the gaps. I mean, if you can find the gaps in a 31 runner, was it 31 runners, I think it was, in the Wokingham last year under Ryan Moore, and thread the eye of the needle, this 16 runners should be an absolute breeze. So yeah, they're I really quite like, especially Rohan. I really do like these, Rohan and Artorias. And like I said, am I surprised if one of the others are just better, a high caliber of horse? No, I'm not. But yeah, they are the two for me. Right, onto the Hardwicke Stakes. 1 mile 4 furlong, Group 2. Last year I had a fairly decent sized bet, I'm not going to lie to you, on who was it, the Flopatron, Hurricane Lane, and yeah, the less said about that the better. I was going there. I'm not going to go into last year because this is nothing like last year for starters. So I do think it's between the front two and the market, not just because it's not about the prices or anything like that. It's because if you look further down, I think Changing the Guard just is a good horse, but is not, like, I know this is only a Group 2, but you've got Group 1 winners in this race. And not just that, Group 1 unpenalised runners. So I think it's hard to see him featuring, along with West Wind Blows, Arkadam and Grand Alliance. So that leaves me with the top 4 in the market. Pile Driver is a very, very good horse. I mean, you could argue he's underrated still, but at the same time, the majority of his form, like if I go through quickly, 249 days off, finished second, 196 days off, finished second, 162 finished first, 76 days finished 11th, 69 days finished second, 50 days off and won. But obviously 50 days isn't really that much. So what I'm saying is generally he does like a run, and connections have come out and they've made no bends in the fact that this is not his be all and end all. I'd imagine maybe it's the Ascot King George. I say maybe, I'd be pretty confident that that'll be his race that he's targeting, because that's what he won last year. And that was his career best 125. If he runs to a career best 125, then he's going to be bang there. But at the same time, as I'll cover a little bit further down the line, there's other horses that have got those sort of numbers as well, and they're not coming here fresh. They're coming here having had a run. So if he wins this, fair play. Like that, it's a great training performance. But you would question maybe when he goes to the King George or whatever, like, is he going to be able to improve again? Because if he runs to a 125 RPR fresh, like, how much have you left in the tank to go forward? Because that's your career best. So for me, he's taken on purely on the fact because he loves Ascot. In fact, I'll just get his Ascot course form up. Ascot course form. Yeah, he's won twice here and finished 7th in another race. So he's no issue with handling the track. As I said, purely taking him on, he's easily dismissed just because of the fact he hasn't had a run. And then Roll On, exactly the same applies to Deauville Legend. He isn't in the class of what Pile Driver is. He hasn't got all the Group 1s and stuff. This looks like a globetrotter. So you look at his best form, obviously down in Flemington. It wouldn't surprise me if they send this horse to Australia sooner rather than later to get that sort of a campaign in. He's got brilliant form in these staying handicaps, 1 mile 4 furlong and further. So, but all of the form that he's got here, like the likes of beating Secret State, finishing behind New London, who obviously finished behind Eldorado in the Ledger. It's all good, solid form, but it's all handicap form. And well, they're not, obviously what he's competing in there aren't handicaps, they're Group 2s, but for me he is what I can see as a very, very, very top level handicapper compared to what he's meeting here are Group 1 horses without penalties. So I think they've made no bones about the fact that he's going to need the run, and if that's the case, his career best is a 118, of which Free Wind hasn't achieved, but she gets £3. Her best is 115, but she's had many injuries, so that would put her on 118. And Hukum and Pile Driver are both quite a bit above that. So I think this will be a prep for further down the line. Connections have said the same. So he's another that if he wins, you just take your hat off to him. So where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is the fact that Hukum is currently priced around 2 to 1. I saw 15 to 8 this morning, but I took 2 to 1 yesterday. And Free Wind's 11 to 4. My play is play both of them in the fact that I play, say if you're doing this in simple stake terms, 1.5 would be on Hukum and then 0.5 would be on Free Wind. And what I mean by that is Free Wind is covering my stake. If Free Wind wins, then I get my money back. If Hukum wins, then obviously I'm in profit. And for those that obviously like the math side of it, it works out that if you're playing 2 to 1 and 3 to 1, Free Wind obviously gets your money back. Hukum, if was to win with those two bets applied, it means you get paid out at 2 to 1 be 6, 4.5. You'd get paid out at 5 to 4 in effect. But you've got 5 to 4 with the cover of Free Wind. The reason is quite simply is because I just think these are on this current day, these are the two horses that are to beat. The main thing is they both come in with a run. They both come in with very good runs last time out. They both come up here with victories. Hukum is on a bit of a warpath at the moment in the fact that he fits in the could be going places category, because since I think it when he was fit with, I'm sure he's fit with a tongue tie. Yeah, so since fitted with a tongue tie, he has literally been on a mission, like first, second to Hamish, which was more than fair, first, but these are all improved runs, seventh, break, and then first. He smashed Pile Driver last year in the Coronation Cup. He came there on the bridle, hacking and swinging, and just said, see you later. Came back after a year off, so 356 days, came back to Sandown, and he beat none other than my beloved Desert Crown. And it wasn't that, obviously Desert Crown I think did blow up on the day and needed the run, but at the same time this horse could. The negative for that is the fact that you could say, well, could this horse bounce? Obviously after a year off, huge run, and then go on from there. But at the same time, it's not like we're looking at a quick run, like the horse has had a month off. The only negative would be they have complained quite a lot about the ground, but the ground currently is good. And you look at his, I'll just go to the ground, go in with his form on, good. Obviously, good to firm, he's got a negative in 2019, but he's raced on good plenty of times. And you're looking at first, fifth, fourth, first, seventh, first. So it's not like he doesn't handle the ground. And if he doesn't handle the ground, or if they don't want to run him on this ground, they'll just take him out, and then you've just got your free win bet anyway. So, but that form of his beating of Desert Crown, I think, is so solid. And yeah, okay, most people are going to split the two and say, right, I want to be greedy and go all in on Hukum or all in. I just think I'll be very disappointed if it's not between these two. And the way I've played it is obviously, if you don't agree with me, obviously you can always go Hukum as your cover and Free Wind is your main play. I just think Hukum is so solid and is obviously a Group 1 winner, and there's very little not to like. Whereas Free Wind is the up and coming horse. She's been very difficult to train. She's had two massive breaks, so 296 days off, and then she come back to beat Sila Rossa in a very controversial race when Jim Crowley absolutely wiped her out and she had no right to win at Saturday. Pretty much put Rob Havlin through the rail, and she still came back and won and beat Sila Rossa. Then had 320 days off, which I'd imagine she may have suffered a slight injury there, and then came back and beat Rogue Millennium. Obviously on the form it didn't look that great at the time, but now Rogue Millennium dropped back 2 furlongs, won this week at Royal Ascot, beating a fairly good mares race with the likes of Jubilee and Potapova and stuff like that in it. So that form's solid. She has got quite a bit to find. So on ratings, she's got £7. On RPRs, she's looking at finding £9 or £10. She gets a £3 allowance, which obviously brings them a bit closer. But she's still got to improve probably. I reckon she's got to, if Hukum runs to his race, his last 2 runs, which are career best, 1.24, then 1.25, obviously there's always going to be a question of the bounce, but you can have that with many horses. Obviously you could argue that maybe Free Wind bounces because she's only had 1 run. I mean, we're really unfortunate, and it'd be very Royal Ascot 2023 if both bounced, because they've both only had 1 run. But at the same time, as I've said, she's got to improve with her weight allowance. She's got to improve probably about £7 to get to Hukum's level. Not saying it's not doable, but I just think he's more likely to run his race more often than not, which gives him the edge. 5 o'clock, the Wokingham. So Wokingham, I'm not going to go too deep into this because I haven't looked properly yet. One horse that obviously jumped straight off the page that most people will be absolutely hating, and they'll just say no chance. You don't want to go too deep into this too, seeing the draw bias, and that's Mr. Wagyu. Obviously, Mr. Wagyu, I think I looked last night, he was about 25 to 1. I haven't checked this morning. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all his summer form again. Everyone knows the script with Mr. Wagyu. He was backed in from 11 to 2 to 9 to 4, which was a ridiculous price at the end of the day. And he ran no race last time out, which was very rare for him. But if you go back to his Epsom run the time before, he looked very, very good. And what if it was tactical to not run a great race last time out? Comes in, not under a penalty. He runs off 96 again. And if we go back through, he ran last year at, where are we looking? He's ran so many times. Last year he finished 2 1/4 lengths behind Rohan in this race off 101. So he comes here off a £5 lower mark. And obviously, as we saw at Epsom, was that a career best? 104. At Epsom, it was... At Epsom, he ran to the exact same run as his Royal Ascot mark. So obviously, it doesn't work like that. But say if he ran to his 104 that he ran to both last year in this race and his Epsom run, so it's 104 plus his £5 lighter, that would technically have him run into a 109, which that should in effect be putting him 2 lengths in front of the likes of a Rohan, if there's a Rohan this year. I just think he's got a knock-in chance. And a lot of people will say, no, I'm not doing it again after his flop last time. So on to 5:35. This was one of my races that I really liked of the day, but it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works. I'm not one of those who says, oh, I've got info on something, I've got something, but I have had a message from a friend who's quite well connected with people, and unfortunately it's thrown me a bit of a spanner in the works. I packed 2 horses on the Discord and I put them up already, and that's 9-2 Canute and 5-1 Knockbrex. I think these 2 are the best handicappers in the race currently. And if you go back and watch every single one of Canute's races, they just look like one of those sneaky rides for another day. Obviously, last time out did win the race, but didn't look like it was given a hard time whatsoever. And obviously, the handicapper saw that same way as well, because they put up £11 to get into this race. Ryan Moore takes the ride, drawn in 6. High draws are favoured in this race. There's only been 3 run-ins, so it's hard to say that's definite. And the notable thing as well is, even though high draws have been favoured, you looked at the winners, and it's horses like Mr. Cut, and I can't remember, it was something, one of the Fox's Tails maybe? Fox's Tails. I surprise myself sometimes. They were both held up, come from the back. I mean, Fox's Tails was stone cold last, whereas Mr. Cut was in the middle of the pack. They came through and they won with plenty of room coming through. Obviously, you always have to find the gaps. So I don't think the low draw will be an issue, because Canute's going to be a hold-up horse. But I have watched the last few videos, and I don't think you want to be too low, because if you miss getting out, you do end up really pocketed and stuck in. But we'll have to see, because obviously we're only 3 renewals in. Not too many stats for this race, but Canute looks so obvious as an Aidan O'Brien handicapper, and obviously it's come to the end of the week. It's one of those, oh, we want to get Ryan the title, we want to get the Aidan O'Brien, we want to get a title. It's when the racing gets really good, because it's how good the jockey is. I put it this way, I'm not saying this will happen, but say if Ryan and Frankie were on 5 apiece, I don't think that will happen. I think Ryan will have it wrapped up, but if they were, that's when you really will see some good jockeyship. And what's interesting is Frankie Dettori is jocked up on the favourite as well, on the second favourite, my other selection in the race, Knockbrex. So this horse has already been backed 5s into 4s. I think this horse has got the best English form. Just a quick run through the form. At Pontefract this year, beat Perfuse. Perfuse ran really well yesterday, finished I think about 4th or 5th, but look, was in with contention coming in. So, and Perfuse ran off a mark, Perfuse ran off a mark of 94, and Knockbrex is running off 90, and Knockbrex hammered Perfuse 3.5 lengths. Next run out was behind Gregory, who obviously was a Royal Ascot winner this week. Finished 1 3/4 lengths behind them, and Gregory got first run. I don't think Knockbrex was given a hard time, but got first run. But the standout piece of form was the run at York, and that was when it got to about 12 furlong, the 10 furlong point, and you just thought, wow, how far is this horse going to win by? It's absolutely stacked up, and then just emptied in the last 2 furlongs, and 3 horses went past. Rathgar, I think, is well handicapped, who finished in 3rd. Knockbrex finished 4th. Rathgar is well handicapped, finished 3rd. Land Legend finished 2nd that day, and has gone and finished 6th, just over 6 lengths behind Desert Hero in 7th this week, so yesterday. And then a standout piece of form was Chess Piece, who won that race. Obviously got put up in the weights due to winning that race, and finished 5 1/4 lengths behind none other than Gregory in 3rd. So the form of that, his form is very, very, very good for handicapping form, and he gets in here off a mark of 90 due to completely emptying last time. Step back 2 furlongs in trip. Frankie Dettori is currently jocked up, and I'd imagine this horse is going to take plenty of beating from the front. If he gets out quick in that draw and gets to the front, then you're away. So here comes the negative. So the negative, I think those 2 are so strong to beat. So Canute at 9-2 and Knockbrex at 5-1. I've just backed them both win only, and obviously whichever one wins, hopefully one of them wins. But the issue that I got this morning was the fact that someone's messaged me saying that there are plans for Zuryab to run. So Zuryab is currently first reserve, which means if at the moment there's one non-runner, that's first sight, but that doesn't get Zuryab into the race. So if there's another non-runner, then it gets Zuryab in, and Frankie Dettori is currently jocked up on both. And the rumour on the circuit is the fact that if there's a non-runner, Frankie will go back to Zuryab, and this horse will get well back. They've laid it out for a big handicap plot job and all the works, and Frankie goes out with his flying dismount. Obviously, you take everything with a pinch of salt, and there are no guarantees. The thing that Zuryab has got the better draw, so Zuryab is drawn high. Zuryab's a strong traveller. Obviously, it was a horse that absolutely bolted up last time from Theatre Honours, and has got form in behind Mostabshir, when was beaten 5 lengths, but Mostabshir wasn't disgraced considering the jumping class in the week. I'd imagine it's very well handicapped off 88. The thing for me is that horse more well handicapped? I say more, that's probably not very good English. Is it better handicapped than Knockbrex? Because Knockbrex has got some banging form. So I don't know. For me, I'm hoping that Zuryab is a non-runner in the fact that no one drops out. But John Gosden himself has even got one in here in Obelix. But if you're going to pull your own horse to get your other horse in, they're different connections. So these are completely different owners. They may have planned a big day out on the Saturday, fit with first-time cheek pieces, has had a run, and could be laid out himself. So the thing is, you're going to upset your own connections, despite whoever you've got, if you turn around and pull that horse. So unless there's a non-runner, that Zuryab shouldn't get in, and then I'm fine. That's fine. If Zuryab gets in, you want to be taking the 11-2 ASAP just to cover the stakes on the other two, in my opinion. Yeah, it's not great if you've got a 9-2 shot and a 5-1 shot, and then suddenly you have to put like another couple of quid on to cover the other two. But for me, I don't want to be on the end of a Frankie Dettori horse that gets backed into 2-1 and then absolutely hammers the lot to cover my stake. But for me, the two that I want on the race are 9-2 Canute and Knockbrex 5-1. They are my two bets. But if you hear that there's a non-runner in this race and Frankie Dettori switching onto Zuryab, I would not put anyone off a saver. So on to the finale, the final race of the meeting, and I'm not going to go too deep into this one. Stratum's obviously the obvious chance, comes here off the same mark, same sort of prep. Willie Mullins has won this the last 2 years. Very different fashions. One of the years he came from like the clouds and just, it wasn't even given a hard time, but got up to win. And then I think that was last year he got up to win from Rashun, and the year before he just won very easy. I think it was about 4 lengths. It was interesting, Frankie Dettori went over to ride this horse in its prep in May and was jocked up on this horse originally. But for whatever reason, there's been some sort of disagreement, or basically William Buick gave this horse an absolute peach last year, threading the eye of the needle, and that's the choice they've gone with. It comes here off a £1 lower mark. So, I mean, you don't get better laid out than that, and we know what Willie Mullins is like. So, I mean, the horse is, 10 years old, so he's not going to be getting any better, but he only has to run to his level. The fly in the ointment was Dawn Rising, who actually ran in the same prep race as Stratum, but finished ahead of him. But I thought Stratum, if given that actually pushed by Frankie Dettori, would have just gone straight past the field fairly easily last time out, and that was the prep. So Dawn Rising obviously has clearly been laid out and has got Ryan Moore. And again, this is me going back to the exciting times at the end of the day, because if Frankie had been on Stratum, it would have been a proper headbanger with the first two in the market. Run for Oscar, obviously Cesarewitch winner, very interesting, but I just find it very difficult when you win a race like a Cesarewitch off a mark of 90. It's difficult to win races after that. Obviously, this horse has been all over the shop, running over hurdles, but comes back here, had a break, comes back here, had the prep, but still, for me, is £11 higher than when winning that Cesarewitch. Would not be surprised for Charles Burns, obviously, if this horse went close, but of the front two, I prefer the other two. And then obviously you've got Falcon 8 and stuff, and Falcon 8 could be well handicapped, like you look back through and has dropped down, but it's been sent off favourite so many times and not got the job done. And I don't really understand, because obviously Falcon 8, Dermot Wells used Frankie to ride Falcon 8 in the past, and again Tom Marquand gets the ride. So I'm not sure what the deal is with why Frankie... Unless I've literally just clicked on it. Obviously this is me completely thinking out loud because I've just gone through these roughly. What if the fact is they expect Frankie Dettori to definitely win on the 5:30, whether it's with Knockbrex or John Gosden's runner, if that is a plotted pull, that's why he's not jocked up on the last race. And so obviously if he wins in the last one, he'll go out with a Royal Ascot winner and the flying dismount. What a theory that is. And then Q Ryan Moore flying down the wing, 5:30, takes 5:30, straight into 6 o'clock. Ryan Moore takes 6 o'clock. Because that's just what he does. He does not care whether it's Frankie Dettori or anyone else, and he does not care for flying dismounts. He is the best in the world. So obviously you've had many conspiracy theories from me. It's probably me just going deluded after this mad week at Royal Ascot. So anyway, going back to this race, it's the front two for me, Stratum and Dawn Rising. I don't know how I'm going to play it. I don't know if I'll even play it, to be honest, because they're not exactly giving much away at 2-1 and 7-2. So we'll wait and see. I think Ryan Moore, the booking from Joseph O'Brien, is very interesting. But at that time of day, Ryan will take any ride he can, because obviously, again, he wants as many winners as he can. So that is it. Royal Ascot over. I would say if I'm coming back to you tomorrow night at a winner, but obviously we haven't had today. Loads of the horses have been well backed, but we've seen that all week. So we just need them to start dropping, really. Try not to get too downbeat about it. I'm not telling you much you don't know in the Chesham. I like mares. Fillies have got good records in the race, and I do like La Gorida. I'm looking for a form boost from Jabara, and if she does, that'll be a bet straight away. And then it'll be between Content and Pearls and Rubies. I'd imagine I'll back. In fact, I will, but I'll definitely back La Gorida depending on the price, and then it'll be one of the other two O'Brien horses. Quashamar 20 to 1 in the 305. Each very very small plays for this race. Very small plays each way. And then Mysterious Night's interesting, but I want to see how he gets on today. Don't want to get too involved there. Queen Jubilee, my nap of the day will be 12 to 1 Rohan each way. Don't get me wrong, he might not place, might not win, might not do anything, but he's 12 to 1 at the end of the day. I just think that's a fair enough price. He could be 8s, and I just think there's potential for plenty of these to bomb. And you can get 5 places with Bet365, which is what I'm looking at currently at the moment. So 12 to 1, but at the same time, Artorius at 4 to 1. Well, 11 to 2 I got, but I'd imagine it'd be 4 or 5 to 1 maybe tonight or tomorrow, because it is a competitive field, and that's a win only bet for Artorius for me. And then on to the Hardwicke. Hukum is the main bet, 3 wins cover. I just think it's between the two of them. 5 o'clock, I haven't gone too far into it yet. Obviously Mr. Wagyu will be on the list, probably around 25 to 1 currently. Golden Gate 535, as I've said, absolute conundrum at the moment, but I really do think Canute and Knockbrex, despite the low draws, will take the beating. Canute currently 9 to 2, Knockbrex currently 5 to 1. The only concern obviously will be if Frankie switches on Zuryab with this magical theory I've just made up. And if he does switch to that horse, I would be looking to save. So if he's 11 to 2, 5 to 1. And at the end of the day, if you want to do the saver now, you can put that bet on. And then if that race, if Zuryab runs, obviously you're covered. If he doesn't run, you just get your money back anyway if they don't get into the race. The only problem is you could end up with obviously 3 horses at the top end of the market. They'll all bring profit, but it's just you're reducing your profit when I really do like the other two. And then in the last race, Stratum or Dawn Rising, probably the likely plays, but I don't know if I'll play it, and if I do, maybe I'll just play one. Obviously, Stratum's just so logical, but at the same time, we'll see. So that is it for Royal Ascot. I don't know what's coming up the next few weeks. A break for me, that'll be for sure, and obviously back to work in a real life. Hope you've enjoyed the content throughout the week. If you've got any comments, positive, obviously, or you can either message me on Twitter, or if you want to put them in the YouTube below, comments, positive, negative, anything. I am going to get a proper office set up in the next few months, ready for the winter season to do this properly, because I've only really started doing it for the Cheltenham side of things, but I've had a lot of positive feedback. I think me writing things down is brilliant for people when they're in work and doing stuff, but I think me telling you I'm only having a small bet, or you can kind of judge the enthusiasm when I'm getting up for some and less so for others. And obviously through the winter, especially for the bigger meets, I just think it's good to have both. So I will try to keep this up as much as I can. I think it's Coral Eclipse is the next big one. Emily Upjohn will take the beating in that. Already backed her at 7 to 2, so wouldn't put anyone off that one. But yeah, hope you enjoy Royal Ascot. I know it's been a bit of a crazy week, but at the same time, you've got no idea what's coming today and no idea what's coming tomorrow. Put it this way, in short terms, I've had two winners this week out of 7, 14, about 15, 16 races that I've played in, 16 or 17 races I played in. Last year I'd played in every race coming up to this point, so I had played in probably 20 races or whatever, or 18 races. No, 6, 7, 14, about 21 races. So I played in more races, but I had 10 winners coming into this point last year. So I mean, you could obviously you can turn around and blame whoever you want at the end of the day, but all of us, every person, like you look at all the big columns, everyone's having a bit of a rough time. But you've got no idea what's coming today and tomorrow. You could literally just be like 10 to 1 winner, 40 to 1 winner. All the favourites go in that you've had your big bets throughout the season in. So you never know when the good times are coming. So try not to get too up or too down. But anyway, I am Risk for Awards, also known as Pete. Hope you've had a good week, and I'll be back soon.